Okay, so I want to take a quick second and rehash something that I just found, or not that I just found, but anyways. I've been buying my parts from Mel at CNS Performance in Butler for my fuel fittings, fuel line, forever. He's got it all in stock. I don't even check what the prices are online. I just go there. And so I'm working on this bike and going over the fuel system. So I bring the parts in and we're picking out the parts, getting the right stuff. And he says, let's pull off these fittings that are in this fuel pressure regulator. He says they don't look like they're seated right. So essentially these are O-ring fittings, but they're too long. So Jade Killer, who I got this from, had tape on these threads, and there was actually all sorts of tape in the fuel pressure regulator. And if you look real closely, the edge of this fitting was bumping on the interior plate for the pressure relief valve. So I'm gonna cut these down on the lathe, but it just goes to show that, you know, going to this guy, he's got his old school experience. We pull these fittings off and see that, you know, I'll cut these off on the lathe. I'll cut them down to, you know, probably about, well, you'll see them after, and they'll fit in real nicely. And then that plate in there won't get disturbed. But a little less fitting was pushing the diaphragm for the fuel pressure regulator up. So, granted, this whole bike needed to be looked at before it was tuned, but this kid took it to 2 different tuners. And the first one didn't even try tuning it. The second one couldn't get enough fuel. So there was some suspect that it was a fuel injectors. Now I'm theorizing, what I know is that the fuel pressure was probably fine at low RPMs, but then when it started, because the bike made 176 horsepower at like 50% throttle at like 10,000 RPM. So it was obviously making power, but then it started running out of fuel. So I'm theorizing that when those injectors really started opening, that's when the byproduct of that seat, of that diaphragm not seating, was showing. And obviously when someone's tuning, they're probably not watching fuel pressure. But I'm guessing that the fuel pressure was fine, and then dropped as soon as the injectors opened up all the way. So another thing that made me think that this wasn't, obviously the diaphragm wasn't working correctly, was this spring was really far down. To, in my experience, I mean, he should have been at like 90 or 100 fuel pressure. So I think they were overcompensating with the spring, because the previous fitting, again, these have been machined down. I machined these on the lathe. Were not allowing the fuel pressure regulator to work correctly. All right, some food for thought when you're tuning, when you're about to tune. He has 650cc secondary injectors in here now, so obviously I don't gotta worry. I can turn them on big time. But I'm theorizing, I think that maybe had that fuel pressure regulator not had those issues, that maybe this bike might have had enough fuel for 225 horsepower. All right, something to think about. And it's really hard for me to write this down, so that's why I made that quick video.